The marble floors of the Johannesburg penthouse gleamed under the afternoon sun, each tile reflecting fragments of Amara's carefully constructed life. She stood at the edge of the nursery doorway, her hand trembling as she gripped her phone, watching footage that shouldn't exist. The nanny cam was supposed to stop recording when she left for her business trip to Cape Town 3 days ago. She turned it off herself, double-checked the app, ensured the little red light had gone dark. Yet here it was, time-stamped hours after her departure, still capturing everything in brutal, undeniable clarity. Amara's finger hovered over the pause button, but she couldn't press it. She needed to see, needed to understand what was happening in her own home while she was building an empire 400 kilometers away. The nursery had been her sanctuary once. Soft yellow walls adorned with hand-painted giraffes and baobab trees, a rocking chair she'd imported from Ghana, shelves lined with children's books in 3 languages. Now it felt like a crime scene, though no crime had been committed. Not legally, anyway. Her husband, Chibu's, moved across the screen with the easy confidence of a man who believed he was unwatched. 6'3" of chiseled perfection, designer suit abandoned on the nursery floor, his deep brown skin catching the lamplight. The same man who'd promised her the world 7 years ago in Lagos, who'd built his tech empire alongside her fashion dynasty, who'd sworn before God and their families that she would always be enough. But it wasn't what Chibu's was doing that made Amara's heart splinter. It was what he was saying. The woman in the frame wasn't a mistress. She was worse. Amara pressed her palm against the cool wall, steadying herself as the weight of discovery crushed down on her shoulders. Outside, Santon's skyline stretched endlessly, a testament to everything she and Chibu's had built together. Inside, everything was crumbling. Her phone buzzed. A text from her assistant. "Mrs. Okonkwo, the investors are ready for your presentation." Mrs. Okonkwo. The name felt like a costume now, something she'd worn without questioning whether it still fit. She took one last look at the paused image on her screen, then slipped the phone into her Hermes bag. 23 floors below, a driver waited to take her to the meeting that could secure 50 million rand in funding for her next collection. She'd built her fashion house, Amara Rain, from a single sewing machine in her mother's Lagos apartment to a continental powerhouse. She didn't have the luxury of falling apart. Not yet. But as Amara stepped into the private elevator, her reflection in the mirrored walls showed cracks in the armor. At 34, she'd been called one of Africa's most powerful women by Forbes. She dressed first ladies and Hollywood starlets. She turned traditional Ankara prints into runway sensations from Paris to New York. None of it had prepared her for this. The elevator descended, and with each floor, Amara made a decision. She would watch the rest of the footage. She would understand every second of what that camera had captured. And then she would decide whether the life she'd built was worth saving, or if it was time to burn it all down and start again. What she didn't know was that the camera had captured far more than betrayal. It had recorded a truth that would shatter everything she thought she knew about her marriage, her husband, and the real reason their nursery had remained empty for 7 years. What would you do if you discovered something that could destroy everything you've built? Drop your thoughts below. Amara Okonkwo had learned early that beauty was both currency and weapon. Born in Lagos to a seamstress mother and a father who disappeared before her first birthday, she'd grown up watching her mother transform scraps of fabric into dreams. By 16, she was designing clothes for the daughters of politicians. By 23, she had her first boutique in Victoria Island. That was where she'd met Chibu's. He'd walked into her shop looking for a gift for his mother, and stayed for 3 hours talking about algorithms and art, technology and tradition. He was building something revolutionary then, a fintech platform that would bring banking to rural communities across West Africa. She was sketching designs that would put African fashion on the global map. They were inevitable, everyone said. 2 young lions, hungry and brilliant, determined to prove that African excellence needed no validation from the West. The wedding had been spectacular. 2,000 guests between Lagos and Johannesburg, where Chibu's family had settled generations ago. Amara wore 6 different gowns, each one a masterpiece from her own collection. Their first dance went viral, shared millions of times across social media. Young, beautiful, successful, in love. Perfect. Except for the one thing they couldn't seem to create together. 7 years of trying. 7 years of doctors and specialists, of hormone treatments and failed IVF cycles, of hope building and breaking like waves against stone. The nursery had been prepared 4 years ago, painted and furnished in anticipation of joy that never arrived. Chibu's never blamed her. That was what hurt most. He'd hold her after each negative test, stroke her hair, promise that they were enough just as they were. But Amara felt the weight of it. His mother's pointed silences during family gatherings. The way his sisters cooed over their own children while glancing at her with pity poorly disguised as sympathy. She'd poured herself into work instead. Amara Reign expanded to 12 stores across 6 African countries. She launched a ready-to-wear line that sold out in hours. She employed over 300 people, most of them women, many of them mothers. Everyone else got to be mothers. The investors' meeting passed in a blur. Amara delivered her presentation flawlessly because she'd trained herself to perform even when dying inside. 50 million rands secured with handshakes and champagne. Her team celebrated. She smiled until her face ached. Back in the penthouse, with Johannesburg's lights glittering below like scattered diamonds, Amara finally allowed herself to break. She poured a glass of South African red wine, settled into the leather sofa that had cost more than her mother's annual income, and opened the Nanny Cam app. The footage waited, patient and merciless. She pressed play. Chibu's appeared first, entering the nursery at 10:47 p.m., 3 hours after Amara's flight had departed. He wasn't alone. The woman with him was familiar, Tandy, their housekeeper's niece, a medical student who sometimes helped with errands. Young, perhaps 25, with the kind of fresh-faced innocence that made Amara feel ancient at 34. But Tandy wasn't dressed for housework. She wore one of Amara's dresses, a crimson design from last season's collection that had never looked quite right on Amara herself. On Tandy's fuller figure, it was devastating. Amara's hand tightened around the wine glass. Then Chibu spoke, his voice clear through the camera's microphone. "You understand why this has to stay between us?" Tandy nodded, her eyes bright with something Amara couldn't name. Excitement, fear. "I understand, Mr. Okonkwo. I won't tell anyone, not even my aunt." "Good." Chibu's moved closer and Amara's stomach twisted. "Because if Amara finds out before I'm ready to tell her, it will destroy everything. She's not ready for this truth." The wine glass shattered against the marble floor. Amara barely felt the wine soaking into her cream-colored carpet or the sting of glass cuts on her palm. Her eyes stayed fixed on the screen, watching her husband's lips move, forming words that rewrote her reality. "I've been planning this for months," Chibu's continued, his hand resting on Tandy's shoulder in a gesture that could have been fatherly or something far worse. "The doctors confirmed it last week. Everything is in place." Doctors, the word sent ice through Amara's veins. She thought of all the fertility appointments they'd attended together, the ones where they'd sat hand in hand, united in their disappointment. Had there been others? Appointments she didn't know about, with doctors who'd told Chibu's things he'd kept hidden. Tandy shifted and the camera caught her profile. She looked nervous but determined. "And you're sure about the timing? 3 months seems so soon." 3 months is necessary, Chibu said firmly. "Any longer and the complications could be severe. I won't risk that." Risk what? Amara's mind spiraled through possibilities, each one worse than the last. Was Tandy sick? Was Chibu's paying for her treatment? Or was this something else entirely, something that involved Amara's own desperate desire for a child? The thought arrived like a knife between her ribs: surrogacy. Had Chibu's arranged for Tandil to carry their child without telling her? It would explain the secrecy, the talk of doctors and timing. It would explain why he wanted to keep it hidden until he was ready to tell her. But why the secrecy? Why the dress? Why meet in the nursery at night like conspirators? Amara grabbed her phone with her uninjured hand, ignoring the blood now dripping onto her white silk blouse. She needed to call him, demand answers, scream until the truth came out. Her finger hovered over his name in her contacts. Then Tandil spoke again, and Amara's world tilted further off its axis. Does she know about the others? Others? The word hung in the air like poison gas. Chibu's expression darkened. No, and she can't know. Not until everything is finalized. The legal paperwork alone could take months, and if she discovers what I've been doing, he trailed off, shaking his head, she'd never forgive me. Legal paperwork, others, secrets that required forgiveness. This wasn't about surrogacy. Amara's breath came in shallow gasps. 7 years of marriage, and she thought she knew this man. Knew his tells when he was stressed, the way he hummed old Nigerian praise songs when he was happy, how he took his coffee with too much sugar and his jollof rice with extra pepper. She knew the scar on his shoulder from a childhood football injury and the nightmare he had sometimes about his father's death. She knew him. Or she'd thought she did. The footage continued. Chibu's pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket, thick with what looked like documents. He handed it to Tandil, who accepted it with reverent care. Everything you need is in there, he said. Account numbers, access codes, contact information. You'll be well compensated for your discretion. Compensated. The word made Amara's skin crawl. Thank you, Mr. Okonkwo. Tandil clutched the envelope to her chest. This means everything to me and my family. We won't let you down. I know you won't. Chibu smiled, and it was the smile Amara had fallen in love with a decade ago. Warm, genuine, transformative. Seeing it directed at another woman in her nursery while discussing secrets and compensation felt like watching her own murder. Then Tandil did something that made Amara's heart stop completely. She reached up and kissed Chibu's cheek. Not a peck, but a lingering press of lips against skin, full of gratitude and something that looked dangerously close to adoration. Chibu's didn't pull away. Amara's phone slipped from her hand, clattering onto the glass-strewn floor. Blood pounded in her ears, drowning out the sounds from the video still playing on the fallen device. She stood on shaking legs, her designer heels crunching over broken crystal, and walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows. 23 floors below, Johannesburg lived and breathed, oblivious to the woman falling apart in her tower of glass and steel. Somewhere in this city, Chibu's was doing whatever it was billionaires did on Thursday nights. Business dinners, perhaps, drinks with investors, or maybe he was with Tandil, continuing whatever this was that required such elaborate secrecy. Amara pressed her forehead against the cool glass. Her reflection stared back, makeup still flawless despite the chaos, her signature cornrow braids adorned with gold thread perfectly in place. She looked like a woman who had everything. She felt like a woman who discovered everything was built on lies. Her phone buzzed with a text. She retrieved it with trembling fingers, careful to avoid the broken glass. Chibu's landing in 30 minutes. Long day but productive. Can't wait to see you. Love you. The casual affection in those words felt like mockery now. How many times had he sent similar messages while hiding whatever this was? How many "I love yous" had been spoken over a foundation of deception? Amara typed and deleted 3 different responses before settling on "See you soon." Safe, neutral, buying her time to figure out what to do with the knowledge burning through her chest. But as she stood there, bleeding and broken in her perfect penthouse, Amara made a decision. She wouldn't confront Chibu's immediately. She would investigate. She would uncover every layer of this secret, understand the full scope of his betrayal, and only then would she decide how to respond. She was Amara Okonkwo, builder of empires. She didn't collapse under pressure. She strategized. And if Chibu's thought he could keep her in the dark about the others, and whatever legal paperwork required months to finalize, he was about to learn that his wife was far more formidable than he'd ever imagined. Have you ever discovered a truth that made you question everything you thought you knew? Share your story in the comments. The next morning, Amara woke with purpose instead of panic. She'd spent half the night watching and rewatching the footage, taking notes, screenshotting timestamps. The other half she'd spent creating a plan. Chibu slept peacefully beside her, one arm thrown over his eyes against the dawn light filtering through their bedroom's sheer curtains. He'd come home late, as promised, kissed her forehead and fallen asleep within minutes. The sleep of the innocent or the very guilty. Amara slipped out of bed without disturbing him. In her private office, a room Chibu's rarely entered, she began her investigation. First, Tandio Mthembu. 26 years old, final-year medical student at the University of the Witwatersrand, originally from KwaZulu-Natal, living with her aunt in Soweto. Her aunt, Ma Ndi Lavu, had been their housekeeper for 3 years, vouched for by Chibu's mother. On the surface, nothing suspicious, but Amara dug deeper. She called her head of security, a former intelligence officer named K. Gosi who'd helped her navigate threats before. Within hours, he'd provided Tandio's phone records, financial statements, and recent activities. What he found made Amara's blood run cold. 3 large deposits into Tandio's account over the past 2 months. Each one came from a shell company registered in Mauritius, but K. Gosi traced them back to one of Chibu's personal accounts. 200,000 rand total, more money than a medical student should have. "There's more," K. Gosi said over the phone, his voice carefully neutral. "She's been visiting a private medical facility in Houghton twice a week. Very exclusive, very expensive. The kind of place that handles delicate situations for wealthy clients." Delicate situations. The phrase could mean anything from plastic surgery to addiction treatment to pregnancy care. Amara thanked K. Gosi and ended the call, her mind racing. She pulled up the Nanny cam footage again, this time focusing on Tandio's body language, looking for any signs of pregnancy. The dress she wore was loose-fitting, but that could mean nothing. A knock on her office door made her jump. "Amara," Chibu's voice warm and concerned. "Are you okay? You left early." She closed her laptop quickly. "Just catching up on emails, you know how it is." The door opened, and there he was, fresh from the shower, wearing the charcoal Tom Ford suit she'd given him for his 38th birthday. Devastatingly handsome, successful beyond measure, and apparently hiding something massive from her. "I was thinking," he said, leaning against the doorframe with that easy smile that had first captured her heart. "We should take a trip, just the 2 of us. Maybe Zanzibar. You've been working so hard, and I know the fertility stuff has been weighing on you." The fertility stuff. As if 7 years of heartbreak could be summarized so casually. "That sounds nice," Amara heard herself say. "But I have the Milan Fashion Week preparation, and you have the FinTech conference in Nairobi. We can make time." He crossed the room, and she forced herself not to flinch when he cupped her face. "You're my priority, Amara, always." Liar, her mind screamed, but her lips said, "I know." He kissed her forehead, a gesture so familiar it hurt. "I have meetings all day, but I'll be home for dinner. Let's cook together, like we used to." "I'd like that." After he left, Amara sat in silence, adding how easily the lies came to her now. How naturally she could pretend everything was normal while her world crumbled beneath her. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Mrs. Okonkwo, I have information about your husband you need to see. Meet me at the Michelangelo Hotel, 2 p.m., room 1847. Come alone." Amara stared at the message, every instinct screaming trap. But desperation made people reckless, and she was discovering depths of desperation she'd never known existed. She typed back, "Who is this?" The response came immediately, "Someone who knows what he's hiding. And it's worse than you think." The Michelangelo Hotel sat in the heart of Santon, all European elegance and old-world luxury. Amara arrived at 1:55 p.m., wearing dark sunglasses and a headscarf despite the indoor setting. Paranoia or wisdom? She couldn't tell anymore. Room 1847 was on the executive floor. She knocked 3 times, her heart hammering. The woman who answered was nothing like Amara expected. Elderly, perhaps 70, with silver hair pulled into an elegant bun. She wore traditional Zulu beads around her neck and wrists, contrasting sharply with her modern pantsuit. Her eyes were kind but held depths of sadness. "Mrs. Okonkwo, thank you for coming. I'm Namvula Mthembu." Mthembu, Tandio's aunt. No, the age was wrong. Grandmother, perhaps. "Please sit." Namvula gestured to the sitting area. "I imagine you're confused." "I'm listening," Amara said carefully, remaining standing. Namvula sighed, settling into an armchair. "I worked for the Okonkwo family for 30 years. I raised Chibyus after his mother grew too ill to care for him properly. I know that boy like he's my own son." Past tense, worked. "I don't understand what this has to do with." "Tandio is my granddaughter," Namvula interrupted gently. "And yes, before you ask, I know about the money he's been giving her. I know about the private clinic visits. I know about the envelope in the nursery." Amara's legs finally gave out. She sank onto the sofa. "Then tell me, please, what is he doing?" Namvula's expression filled with something like pity. "He's trying to save your marriage in the most misguided way possible. But to understand that, I need to tell you a truth about your husband that he's been hiding for 7 years." "What truth?" "The reason you haven't been able to conceive isn't a mystery, Mrs. Okonkwo. Chibyus has known the answer since before you were married." The room tilted. Amara gripped the sofa's armrest. "What are you talking about? We've seen specialists together. They said it was unexplained infertility that sometimes." "Those were doctors your husband chose very carefully." Namvula leaned forward, her beaded bracelets clicking together. "Doctors who would tell you what he wanted you to hear instead of the truth he couldn't face telling you himself." "You're saying Chibyus lied about our fertility issues?" Amara's voice came out strangled. "Why would he?" "Because the problem isn't yours, Mrs. Okonkwo. It's his. It always has been." The words landed like physical blows. Amara struggled to breathe, to think, to process what she was hearing. "Chibyus was diagnosed with severe oligospermia when he was 24, Namvula continued quietly. "Essentially, he produces very few viable sperm. The doctors told him natural conception would be nearly impossible. They recommended he tell any future partner before marriage. But he never." Amara's mind raced back through 7 years of appointments, treatments, hormone injections that had left her body aching and her hopes shattered. "He let me think it was my fault." "Not explicitly," Namvula said. "But by omission, yes. He was young when he got the diagnosis, ashamed. In our culture, in his mother's eyes, a man's virility is tied to his worth. He couldn't admit the weakness. So he buried it, hoped maybe it would resolve itself, that maybe with you it would be different." But it wasn't different. Amara felt tears burning behind her eyes, 7 years of accumulated grief and frustration suddenly having a target. "So what does this have to do with Tandio, with the money and the clinic and the secrets?" Namvula's face grew grave. "That, I'm still piecing together myself. But I know Chibyus has been meeting with fertility specialists, cutting-edge ones, experimenting with techniques not yet approved in South Africa, and I know Tandu has been involved somehow. Surrogacy, Amara whispered. He's arranged for her to carry our child. Perhaps, or perhaps something more complex. These new procedures. Namvula shook her head. I don't understand all the science, but I know my granddaughter signed papers swearing her to secrecy, and I know the money he's paying her is labeled as medical consultation fees. Amara stood abruptly, packing the hotel room like a caged animal. Why are you telling me this? Why now? Because I raised Chibus to be better than his secrets, and because I've watched you for 3 years through my niece Ma and Dilavu's eyes. You deserve the truth, Mrs. Okonkwo. Whatever he's planning, whatever procedures or arrangements he's made, you deserve to be part of the decision. Does Tandu know about his condition? I believe so. The medical form she's been filling out reference a paternal genetic condition. Amara's laugh was bitter. So my husband trusts your 26-year-old granddaughter with truths he won't share with his own wife. Men make foolish choices when they're desperate to prove their worth, Namvula said softly, especially when they fear losing the person who means everything to them. If I meant everything, he would have told me the truth 7 years ago. Perhaps, or perhaps he loved you too much to risk you leaving him over something he saw as his fundamental failure as a man. Amara turned to the window, looking out over Santon's sprawling wealth. Somewhere in this city, Chibus was in meetings, playing the role of successful billionaire, powerful man, perfect husband. And she was here, learning that their entire marriage had been built on a lie of omission. What do I do? She asked, adding the weakness in her voice. That's entirely up to you, Namvula said. But if it were me, I'd demand the full truth, all of it. Whatever he's planning with Tandu, whatever these experimental procedures are, you have a right to know before it's too late. Too late for what? Namvula's silence was answer enough. Amara returned to the penthouse with a clarity she hadn't felt in years. The anger was still there, white-hot and demanding, but it was focused now. Purposeful. She found Chibus in his study, surrounded by monitors displaying stock tickers and financial data. He looked up when she entered, his smile automatic and warm. You're home early. I thought you had that fabric supplier meeting. I canceled it. Amara closed the door behind her, locked it. We need to talk. Something in her tone made his smile falter. Is everything okay? No, Chibus, everything is not okay. She pulled out her phone, queued up the nanny cam footage, and it hasn't been okay for a very long time. She watched the color drain from his face as he recognized what she was showing him. The nursery, Tandu, the envelope. Amara, I can explain. Can you? She set the phone on his desk, letting the footage play. Can you explain why you're giving hundreds of thousands of rand to our housekeeper's niece? Why you're meeting with her in our nursery at night? Why you're discussing doctors and legal paperwork and things I apparently can't know about? Chibus stood, reaching for her. She stepped back. Don't touch me until I have the truth, all of it. He ran his hands over his face, a gesture she'd seen 1,000 times when he was stressed. It's not what it looks like. Then tell me what it is. I can't, not yet. The timing isn't. I know about the oligospermia, Amara said flatly, and watched him freeze. I know you were diagnosed at 24. I know you've known for over a decade that you're the reason we haven't been able to conceive naturally. The look on his face confirmed everything Namvula had told her. Shame, fear, and something that looked like relief at the secret finally being spoken aloud. Who told you? His voice was barely a whisper. Does it matter? What matters is that you let me go through 7 years of hell thinking something was wrong with me. 7 years of treatments and hormones and failed hope while you knew. You knew, Chibus. I was going to tell you. He moved toward her again, and this time she let him approach. So many times I almost told you, but I was terrified you'd leave, that you'd want a man who could give you children easily, naturally, that I wouldn't be enough. So instead you lied. I didn't lie, I didn't correct the assumption. That's semantics, and you know it. Amara felt tears threatening but refused to let them fall. Not yet. And what about Tandy? What's your excuse there? Chibius took a deep breath and she could see him making a decision. Sit down, please. I'll tell you everything. They sat in the chairs facing his desk, and for a long moment Chibius just looked at her. When he finally spoke, his voice was thick with emotion. 3 months ago, I found out about a new procedure. It's experimental, being pioneered by a team in Switzerland. They've had success with men who have conditions like mine. It involves genetic modification, cell enhancement, basically re-engineering my sperm to be viable. Amara's breath caught. Why didn't you tell me? Because it's risky, expensive, and not guaranteed to work. The success rate is about 40%. I didn't want to get your hopes up again just to watch them crash down. I couldn't do that to you anymore. So you decided to try it alone. I decided to try it quietly. And if it worked, if the procedure was successful, then I would tell you. Then we could try for a baby with real hope instead of desperation. It made a horrible kind of sense. Amara wanted to be furious, but understanding was creeping in around the edges of her anger. And Tandy. She's part of the research team. She's been studying reproductive medicine, specifically male infertility. When I learned about the procedure, I needed someone local who could help coordinate with the Swiss doctors, handle the medications, monitor my progress. Someone discreet. You paid her to keep secrets from me. I paid her for her medical expertise and her silence. Yes. Chibius reached for her hand, and this time she let him take it. I know how it looks, Amara. I know what you must have thought when you saw that footage. But I swear to you, there's nothing romantic between Tandy and me. She's been helping me try to become the man you deserve, the father I want to be. Amara wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe him. But 7 years of secrets made trust feel impossible. The kiss, she said. On the footage, she kissed you. Gratitude, nothing more. The money I'm paying her is funding her final year of medical school and helping her family. Her aunt's medical bills, her siblings' education. She was grateful and she expressed it inappropriately. I should have stopped her. I'm sorry. Show me the medical records, the procedure details, everything. Chibius hesitated. Some of it is protected by medical privacy laws. I'm your wife, Chibius, show me. He turned to his computer, pulling up encrypted files. Medical documents in English and German, charts tracking hormone levels and sperm counts, communication with Swiss doctors whose credentials were impressive even to Amara's untrained eye. And there, in the middle of it all, a treatment plan. Aggressive, expensive, and scheduled to conclude in exactly 3 months. The legal paperwork you mentioned, Amara said slowly. What is that? Chibiu's jaw tightened. If the procedure works, the Swiss doctors require all patients to sign extensive consent forms about the genetic modifications. There are ethical implications, legal protections they need. It's complicated. And you were going to make these decisions without me. I was going to handle the technical aspects and then present you with the possibility of finally having our child, our biological child, Amara, the one we've dreamed about. She pulled her hand from his. You don't get to make those choices alone. This is my body, my future, our marriage. You don't get to play God and then present me with the results like a gift. I know, you're right, He looked broken, this man who'd built billion-rand empires and negotiated with world leaders. I couldn't fail you again. Every month that test came back negative, I watched a piece of you die. I couldn't keep being the reason for your pain. So you became the reason I couldn't trust you instead. The words hung between them, sharp and true. Chibiu's phone buzzed on the desk. He glanced at it and his expression shifted. It's the Swiss clinic. They're calling about the final procedure results. Answer it, Amara said, on speaker. He did. The voice that came through was professional, accented, female. "Mr. Okonkwo, this is Dr. Reinhardt from the Zurich Fertility Institute. I'm calling with your 12-week analysis results." "I'm here, doctor. My wife is with me." A pause. "Ah, Mrs. Okonkwo, it's a pleasure. Your husband has spoken of you often." "What are the results?" Amara asked, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "The genetic modification procedure has been successful beyond our projections. Mr. Okonkwo's sperm count has increased by 300%, and viability rates are at 78%. These are numbers consistent with natural conception." The room seemed to stop breathing. "You mean," Chibu's voice cracked, "we could?" "With these numbers, natural conception is not only possible but probable. I would recommend you begin trying immediately, as we can't guarantee how long the modifications will remain stable. Ideally within the next 3 to 6 months. Amara felt dizzy. 7 years of impossible and now suddenly probable. "Thank you, Dr. Reinhardt," she managed. "We'll be in touch." After the call ended, silence filled the study. Chibuz and Amara sat in it, processing what they'd just heard. "We could have a baby," Chibuz whispered. "A real chance, Amara." "We could have," she said slowly, "if you trusted me enough to let me be part of this from the beginning." "I trust you with everything. I just didn't trust myself. Didn't trust that I deserved your faith after failing you for so long." Amara stood, walked to the window overlooking their city of gold and glass. "I need time to think, to process all of this." "How much time?" "I don't know." "We don't have infinite time," Chibu said quietly. "If we're going to try," the doctor said. "I heard what she said." Amara turned to face him. "But I'm not sure I can be intimate with you right now. Not when I'm still so angry, not when I still feel betrayed." "Then let me make it right, whatever it takes." "It's not that simple, Chibuz. You kept a fundamental truth about our marriage from me for 7 years. You made me believe I was the problem, that my body was failing us. Do you have any idea what that did to me?" Shame colored his features. "I'm sorry, God, Amara, I'm so sorry." "Sorry isn't enough, not yet." She left him in his study and went to the master bedroom, locking the door behind her. Her phone was already ringing. Her mother, her assistant, someone from the atelier with a crisis about fabric shipments. Amara ignored them all. She lay on the bed she shared with a man she wasn't sure she knew anymore, and finally let herself cry. Because the cruelest thing about this revelation wasn't the betrayal. It was that, after 7 years of wanting, 7 years of grief, she finally had a real chance at the thing she dreamed about most. And she had no idea if she could forgive the man she'd need to create it with. When someone you love makes a terrible choice for what they believe are good reasons, can you forgive them? What would you do? 3 days passed in careful avoidance. Chibuz slept in the guest room without being asked. Amara threw herself into work, spending 16-hour days at the atelier, losing herself in fabric and thread and the creative problems that had solutions. Her team noticed. Her head designer, Yuri, finally cornered her on the 3rd day. "Amara, you've reworked that neckline 7 times. It was perfect 3 iterations ago. What's going on?" "Nothing, I'm fine." "You're many things, but fine isn't one of them right now." Yuri, who'd been with Amara since the beginning, wasn't easily dismissed. "Talk to me." So Amara did. Not all of it, but enough. The footage, the secrets, the medical revelation, the impossible choice now sitting before her. Yuri listened without interrupting, then said simply, "Do you still love him?" "I don't know. I'm so angry I can't see past it to whatever might still be underneath." "Then maybe that's your answer. Maybe you can't move forward until you've fully felt the anger." That night, Amara went home with intention. She found Chibuz in the living room, looking as exhausted as she felt. "We need to talk," she said. "Really talk. Not about solutions or moving forward. about what you did and how it made me feel." "Okay," he said simply, "I'm listening." And for the next 3 hours, Amara raged. She threw 7 years of pain at him, every moment she'd blamed herself, every treatment that had left her feeling broken, every family gathering where she'd endured pity and judgment while he'd stayed silent. She told him about the nights she'd cried alone in the bathroom, about the desperate prayers and the gradual death of hope. Chibius took it all. No excuses, no justifications. Just listening, tears streaming down his face as she finally released the weight she'd been carrying. When she was empty, wrung out and exhausted, he spoke. "I can't undo any of it. I can't give you back those 7 years or erase the pain. All I can do is promise to never hide from you again, to trust you with the hard truths, even when I'm terrified." "How do I know you mean it?" "You don't. I have to earn that trust back. Piece by piece, day by day, however long it takes." Amara looked at this man she'd married, really looked at him. At 38, he was still beautiful, still brilliant, still capable of making her heart race when he smiled. But he was also flawed, capable of tremendous mistakes born from fear and shame. Just like her, just like anyone. "I want to try," she said quietly, "for the baby, but I need you to understand something. If we do this, if we try to conceive and it works, that doesn't fix us. We'll still need to rebuild the trust. The baby won't be a bandage." "I understand." "Do you? Because I'm terrified that you've built this up in your head as some magical solution. That once we have a child, everything will be perfect." Chibius shook his head. "I know better than that. The procedure gave me viable sperm, but it doesn't make me a better husband. Only I can do that, with time and work and being honest even when it's hard." It was the right answer. But Amara still felt the distance between them, a chasm created by secrets that would take more than words to bridge. Her phone rang, Namvula. "I'm sorry to call so late," the elderly woman said, "but there's something you need to know about Tandio." Amara's stomach dropped. What about her? She went to the clinic today for what she thought was a routine follow-up about the research she's been helping with. They ran standard tests. "And she's pregnant, Mrs. Okonkwo, 8 weeks along." The world tilted. Amara gripped the phone so hard she thought it might crack. "That's not possible. The timeline doesn't." "I know what you're thinking. But she hasn't been with anyone. She swears it. The only medical procedures she's been involved with are the ones related to your husband's treatment." Amara's mind raced. "What are you saying, that the procedure somehow—" "I'm saying I don't know, but neither does Tandu, and she's terrified. The clinic is running tests, trying to understand what happened. And Mrs. Okonkwo, they want to see both you and your husband immediately." Amara looked at Chibius, who'd clearly heard enough of the conversation to understand something was terribly wrong. "We'll be there first thing in the morning," she said, and ended the call. "What's happened?" Chibius asked. "Your medical miracle has complications," Amara said bitterly. "Tandu is pregnant, and somehow it's connected to your treatment." The color drained from his face. "That's impossible. I never—" "I know, but impossible seems to be our specialty lately." The private clinic in Houghton looked more like a luxury spa than a medical facility. Tandu was already there when they arrived, looking young and frightened, accompanied by her grandmother. The doctor who met them was the same one who'd been coordinating Chibiu's treatment. Dr. Patel, a reproductive endocrinologist with an office full of awards and certifications. "Thank you for coming so quickly," she said, ushering them into a private conference room. "This situation is unprecedented." "Explain," Amara demanded. "How is Tandu pregnant with my husband's child when he's never touched her?" "He hasn't," Dr. Patel said firmly. "But the procedure we've been pioneering involves cultivating and storing enhanced sperm samples. We keep them in specialized conditions to monitor their viability over time." And Chibius leaned forward. One of the samples was used in an unauthorized procedure. We're still investigating how, but preliminary evidence suggests it was during a training session Tandy was observing. She was learning about IUI, intrauterine insemination, and somehow, a vial containing Mr. Okonkwo's enhanced sperm was used instead of the practice sample. Silence filled the room like poison gas. "You're telling me," Amara said slowly, carefully, "that my husband's sperm was implanted in her by accident." "That's what the investigation suggests. It should have been impossible with our protocols, but somewhere in the chain, there was a catastrophic error." Tandy spoke for the first time, her voice small. "I didn't know. I swear to God I didn't know. They told me it was a dummy procedure, teaching me the technique. I was just lying there, learning, and then weeks later I started feeling sick, and I thought it was stress from finals and—" She broke down crying. Namvula held her, murmuring comfort in Zulu. Amara felt like she was watching the scene from outside her body. This couldn't be real. It was too absurd, too cruel. "So what now?" she asked. "Legally, genetically, whose child is this?" Dr. Patel looked uncomfortable. "That's complicated. Genetically, it's Mr. Okonkwo's child, but legally, Ms. Mthembu is the gestational mother. The circumstances are so unusual that there's no clear precedent." "I don't want this," Tandio said through tears. "I'm 26, I'm in medical school, I can't have a baby right now. I didn't choose this." "None of us chose this," Amara said, her voice hollow. Chibu stood abruptly, packing the room. "This is my fault, all of it. If I hadn't been so desperate, so secretive, none of this would have happened." "Blaming yourself doesn't help," Amara said. "We need to figure out what to do." "What do you mean, what to do?" Tandio looked up, eyes wide. "You mean whether I keep it?" The question hung in the air, impossible and necessary. Amara looked at this young woman, barely more than a girl, carrying a child that was genetically her husband's, a child that could have been hers if the procedure had worked as intended, a child created by accident and error, wanted by no one in this room. Except maybe Amara wanted it, despite everything, despite the betrayal and the chaos and the sheer insanity of the situation. She wanted the child she'd dreamed of for 7 years, even if it was gestating in another woman's body. The realization made her feel monstrous. "That's your choice," Amara heard herself say. "Your body, your decision." "But it's your husband's child," Tandio said, "and you've wanted a baby for so long. Ma Ndilavu told me, my grandmother told me, don't you want?" "What I want doesn't matter right now," Amara said, though every cell in her body screamed the opposite. "You're the one who has to carry it, give birth to it, deal with the physical reality. No one can force you." Chibu sat back down heavily. "We'll support whatever you decide. Financially, medically, whatever you need." "Can I have time," Tandio asked, "to think about this?" "Of course," Namvula said, speaking for the first time. "This is not a decision to make quickly." They left the clinic in separate cars, no one sure what to say. Back in the penthouse, Amara and Chibu sat in different rooms, processing the impossible. Hours later, Chibu's found her on the balcony, staring at the city lights. "If she decides to keep it," he said quietly, "and if she's willing, we could arrange something. Adoption or some kind of co-parenting agreement." "That's not a real family," Amara said. "That's a legal arrangement with a surrogate who never agreed to be one." "Then what do we do?" "I don't know." Amara turned to him, and he could see the devastation in her eyes. "The cruelest part is that this proves it worked. Your procedure worked. Somewhere in my body, I could be growing our baby right now instead of watching another woman carry a child that should have been ours." "We could still try. The doctor said the modifications are stable." "How?" Amara laughed bitterly. "How do I make love to you and try to conceive our child while another woman is pregnant with one that's genetically yours? How do I navigate that emotionally?" "I don't know," Chibu's admitted. I don't have answers anymore, Amara, just regret. She looked at him, this man who tried to fix everything and broken it instead. Me too, she whispered. Me too. Have you ever faced a situation where there were no good choices, only impossible ones? How did you decide what to do? 5 days of agonizing limbo passed. Tandil requested space, and they gave it to her. Meanwhile, Amara and Chibius existed in a state of suspended animation, waiting for a decision that would reshape all their lives. On the 6th day, Amara received an unexpected visitor at her atelier. Ndilavu, their housekeeper, arrived with tears streaming down her face. Mrs. Okonkwo, I need to confess something. I can't carry this anymore. Amara led her to her private office, dread pooling in her stomach. What is it? The procedure, the one that made Tandil pregnant, it wasn't an accident. The world stopped. What do you mean? Amara's voice came out deadly quiet. I did it. I switched the vials. I made sure Tandil was implanted with Mr. Okonkwo's enhanced sperm. Amara couldn't breathe. Why would you do that? Ndilavu collapsed into a chair, her body shaking with sobs. Because I've watched you break for 3 years. I've seen you cry in bathrooms, seen you avoid baby showers, seen the hope die in your eyes month after month. And I've known Chibius since he was a boy. I knew about his condition, knew his shame. That doesn't explain. My daughter died in childbirth 5 years ago, Ndilavu interrupted. Tandil's mother. She was trying for her 4th child and something went wrong. I lost her. And I swore I'd protect Tandil from the same desperation, the same grief. By making her pregnant against her will. No, I thought. Ndilavu's face crumpled. I thought if she carried your baby, if she gave you the child you wanted so desperately, it would heal everything. The money Mr. Okonkwo was paying her would set her up for life. You'd have your baby. Everyone would win. That's insane, Amara said flatly. That's illegal, that's assault. I know now how wrong I was. But I couldn't watch you suffer anymore, Mrs. Okonkwo. And I couldn't watch my granddaughter struggle through medical school with no help. I thought I was solving everyone's problems. Amara felt rage building, hot and consuming. You played God with all our lives. You violated your own granddaughter. And for what? To fix a situation you had no right to interfere with. I'm turning myself in to the police, Ndilavu said. I came here first because you deserve to know the truth, all of it. All of it? Amara's eyes narrowed. What else? Ndilavu reached into her bag and pulled out a file. These are medical records from 20 years ago about Chibiu's mother. I don't understand what that has to do with. Mrs. Okonkwo Sr. couldn't have children, not biologically. She and her husband adopted Chibius as an infant, but they never told him. They created false records, convinced the family it was a difficult birth that explained her health problems afterward. They took the secret to their graves. The revelations kept coming, each one more stunning than the last. Chibius is adopted, Amara whispered. Yes, and his biological mother. She was one of my cousins. A young girl, 16, who got pregnant and couldn't keep the baby. The Okonkwos gave that child a life of privilege and opportunity, but they also gave him a legacy of secrets. Does he know? No, I don't think so. But I suspect part of his shame around fertility comes from somewhere deep, something he can't explain. We carry our truths in our bones, even when our minds don't know them. Ndilavu stood, composed despite her tears. I'll go to the police now. I'll tell them everything. And I'll beg Tandil's forgiveness, though I don't deserve it. Wait, Amara's mind was racing. Before you do, I need you to do something for me. That evening, Amara gathered everyone at the penthouse. Chibius, Tandil, Namvula, and Ndilavu. She'd called Dr. Patel as well, needing her medical expertise for what she was about to propose. I know the truth, Amara began, looking at Ndilavu. About what you did, about why Tandil is pregnant. Tandil gasped. Chibu's face hardened with fury. Before anyone reacts, Amara continued, holding up her hand, I need to say something. Ma and Lavu's actions were wrong, illegal, unforgivable in many ways, but they also revealed something important. What could possibly be important about what she did? Chibu's demanded. That we're all trapped by secrets. You with your fertility, your mother with your adoption, Ma and Lavu with her grief, me with my desperation. We've all been keeping pieces of ourselves hidden, and those secrets have poisoned everything. She turned to Chibu's. Your mother and father adopted you. Ma and Lavu just told me. You have every right to be angry at her for that violation too, but it's true. And I think somewhere inside, you've always felt different, wrong, inadequate. Not because of your oligospermia, but because you've carried a truth you didn't know how to name. Chibu's looked like he'd been struck. That's not possible. I have baby pictures, birth certificates. Forged, all of it. Your mother was desperate to have a child, and society's judgment about infertility was even harsher 38 years ago. Amara's voice softened. You're not alone in this shame, Chibu's. Your mother felt it too. She just had different ways of hiding it. Tears streamed down his face. Why are you telling me this, now? Because I'm done with secrets. All of them. And because I want to propose something that only works if we're all honest with each other. She turned to Tandil. You're carrying a child you never chose to conceive. You have every right to terminate this pregnancy and no one would blame you. But if you're willing to consider an alternative, I want to offer you something. What? Tandil's voice was wary. A true partnership. Not adoption, not surrogacy under false pretenses. A real agreement where you carry this baby to term, and Chibu's and I raise it as ours, but you remain part of its life. Auntie Tandil, who helped bring it into the world. With compensation that's fair, support through medical school and beyond, and a relationship built on honesty instead of lies. You want me to give you my baby, Tandil said. No, I want you to help us become parents to a child that's genetically Chibu's, but exists because of an impossible situation none of us created intentionally. I want us to build something new out of this chaos. Dr. Patel spoke up. I should mention that Mrs. Okonkwo came to see me yesterday. We ran tests. She's also pregnant. The room erupted. What? Chibu stared at Amara in shock. 2 weeks along, Amara said quietly. We made love once after you told me about the procedure when I was still processing everything. I didn't think anything would come of it, but Dr. Patel confirmed it yesterday. You're pregnant, Chibu's repeated, wonder and disbelief in his voice. We're having a baby. Yes, which means Tandil's baby and ours would be approximately 6 months apart. Half siblings, raised together if she agrees to this arrangement. Tandil looked overwhelmed. You want me to raise my baby as your child's sibling? I want to give you a choice, Amara said. A real one. You can terminate and no one will judge you. You can have the baby and keep it and we'll support you however you need. Or you can agree to this partnership, where we all parent these children together in our own ways. Why would you do that? Tandil asked. After what my aunt did to me. Because Ma and Lavu was right about one thing. We're all connected now, whether we like it or not. We can let that connection destroy us, or we can use it to build something better than what any of us had before. Namvula spoke, her voice thick with emotion. You would forgive what Ma and Lavu did. I didn't say that. Forgiveness takes time and there will be legal consequences for her actions, but I won't let her mistakes dictate my future, or this baby's future. Amara placed her hand on her still flat stomach. I've spent 7 years being a victim of circumstances. I'm choosing to be something else now. Chibu's moved to her side, taking her hand. We're really having a baby, he whispered. Yes, and if Tandil agrees, we might be helping to raise too. Everyone looked at the young woman, waiting. Tandil closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and when she opened them, there was strength there that hadn't been before. I need time, and I need a lawyer, and I need therapy because what Ma Ndilavu did. She looked at her grandmother with pain. I love you, Gogo, but I can't process this all right now. That's fair, Amara said. Take all the time you need. But, Tandil continued, I want you to know that I'm considering it. Your offer, because you're right, we're connected now, and maybe that doesn't have to be a tragedy. It wasn't a yes, but it wasn't a no either. And for the first time in weeks, Amara felt something like hope. 3 months passed in a blur of lawyer meetings, therapy sessions, and medical appointments. Ma Ndilavu turned herself in and was charged with assault and medical malpractice. Her trial was pending, but she'd confessed to everything, showing such genuine remorse that even Tandil had begun to soften toward her. Tandil decided to continue her pregnancy. She hadn't fully committed to Amara's partnership proposal, but she'd agreed to keep talking, keep negotiating, keep building trust. Meanwhile, Amara's pregnancy progressed beautifully. At 4 months, she was finally showing, a small bump that Chibus couldn't stop touching with wonder. They'd told their families, weathered the shock and joy and complicated questions about Tandil's situation. Chibu's discovery of his adoption had sent him into therapy as well. He met his biological mother, Ma Ndilavu's cousin, now a grandmother herself living in KwaZulu-Natal. The reunion was emotional and healing, answering questions he'd had his whole life about why he felt different, why he'd never quite fit the narrative his parents had created. I'm not angry, he told Amara one night as they lay in bed, his hand on her growing belly. I'm grateful they gave me opportunities I wouldn't have had otherwise, but I wish they'd trusted me with the truth. That's what secrets do, Amara said. They rob us of trust, but we're not going to do that to our child. Our children, Chibus corrected, if Tandil agrees. A week later, Tandil called them to her apartment in Soweto. She was 6 months pregnant now, her belly round and prominent. She looked tired but resolute. I've made my decision, she said, and Amara's heart hammered. I want to do the partnership, but with conditions. Name them, Amara said. First, I want my own lawyer to draw up the agreement. Fair compensation, yes, but also protections for me and the baby. I want visitation rights, the right to be part of the child's life, the right to veto certain decisions until the child is 18. Agreed, Chibu said immediately. Second, I want my aunt's legal fees covered. Not because what she did was right, but because she's still my grandmother and I love her. Amara hesitated, then nodded. Agreed. Third, I want your baby and mine to know their siblings. Really know. Not some secret they discover later. Full transparency, age-appropriate honesty always. That's what we want too, Amara said. And fourth, Tandil took a deep breath. I want you both to be there when I give birth. I know that's strange, but I don't want to do this alone. I want this baby to come into the world surrounded by all of us who are going to love it. Tears streamed down Amara's face. We'd be honored. The legal paperwork took another month. Amara's lawyers and Tandil's went back and forth, creating an agreement that protected everyone while acknowledging the unprecedented nature of the situation. The media caught wind of the story eventually. Billionaire couple in unconventional parenting agreement read the headlines. Some were sympathetic, others were judgmental. Amara and Chibus made one statement, then refused to engage further. This is our family, Amara said in the press release. However unconventional it looks to outsiders, it's built on honesty, respect, and love. That's all that matters. At 7 months pregnant, Amara stood in the nursery, now being renovated to accommodate 2 cribs instead of 1. Chibus found her there, lost in thought. What are you thinking about? He asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. About how different this is from what I imagined. I thought I'd be here alone with you, preparing for our baby. Instead, we're preparing for 2 Bobbies, with a 26-year-old medical student as part of our parenting team, while your mother-in-law of sorts awaits trial for the crime that made it all possible. Regret it? No, strangely no. I think this is better than what I imagined. Messier, more complicated but more real, more honest. I love you, Chibu said. I know I've said it 1,000 times since all this started, but I need you to know I mean it more now than ever. You could have left. You could have let the secrets and lies destroy us. Instead, you built something beautiful out of the ruins. We built it, Amara corrected. All of us. Even Ma Ndi Lavu in her twisted way. We're all broken people who chose to heal together instead of suffering alone. Her phone buzzed. A text from Tandu. Hospital, baby's coming early. Can you meet me there? Panic and excitement flooded through Amara. She's in labor, 3 weeks early. They raced to the hospital, arriving to find Tandu already in a delivery room, Namvula by her side. You came, Tandu said through a contraction. Of course we came, Amara said, taking her hand. We're in this together, remember. The labor lasted 8 hours. Amara and Chibu stayed the whole time, coaching Tandu through contractions, offering water and encouragement, being the support system she needed. And when the baby finally came, a perfect little girl with Chibu's dark eyes and Tandu's delicate features, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. She's beautiful, Amara whispered, watching as the nurses cleaned and swaddled the infant. What are you going to name her? Chibu asked Tandu. I thought we could decide together, Tandu said tiredly. She's all of ours. They named her Naledi, meaning star in Setswana, because she'd come from impossible circumstances to shine light into all their lives. 3 months later, Amara gave birth to a son they named Themba, Hope in isiZulu. He came into a world that already had his half-sister waiting to meet him, a family that looked nothing like traditional but was full of love nonetheless. What does family mean to you? Is it defined by blood or by love and choice? Share your thoughts below. 2 years later, Amara stood in her flagship store in Lagos, watching as Tandu gave a speech about medical ethics to a room full of aspiring doctors. She'd graduated top of her class, funded by a scholarship Amara and Chibu's had established in her name. Naledi was with Namvula, who'd served 8 months of a suspended sentence and was now rebuilding her relationship with her granddaughter through supervised visits. Themba was with Chibu's at the office, where he'd set up a nursery so he could bring his son to work. Their arrangement had evolved over 2 years. Tandu had her own apartment near campus but spent weekends at the penthouse with Naledi. The children were being raised knowing their unique origin story, simplified for their toddler minds but honest. Naledi has 2 mommies, Themba would say, parroting what they'd taught him, and we're both special. The media attention had died down. What remained was a family that worked, imperfectly but genuinely. Amara's business had grown too. She'd launched a foundation supporting women entrepreneurs across Africa, using her platform to lift others the way she'd once been lifted. Her latest collection, inspired by motherhood and unconventional families, had been her most successful yet. After Tandu's speech, they met for dinner at a restaurant overlooking Lagos Harbor. I got accepted into the pediatric residency program in Johannesburg, Tandu said, her eyes bright with excitement. I'll be able to stay close to Naledi. That's wonderful, Amara said genuinely. She'll love having you nearby more. I've been thinking, Tandu continued, about what happens when she's old enough to understand everything, the truth about how she was conceived. We tell her, Chibu said firmly, all of it. The mistakes, the secrets, the choices we made to build this family. We tell her truth was more important than comfort. She'll have questions, Tandu said. Let her ask them, Amara replied, and we'll answer honestly. That's the promise we made. They toasted to that promise, 3 people who'd been strangers thrown together by impossible circumstances, now bound by love and commitment to 2 children who represented hope and healing. Later that night, back in Johannesburg, Amara sat in the nursery with both children asleep in their cribs. Naledi clutched a stuffed giraffe. Thembas sucked his thumb, peaceful in dreams. Chibius found her there, as he often did. "What are you thinking about?" he asked, sitting beside her. "About that nanny cam. How it captured something that almost destroyed us but ended up saving us instead. Do you ever regret it, the complication of all this?" Amara thought about the question seriously. Their life was complicated. Co-parenting with Tandu required constant communication, negotiation, patience. There were hard conversations and awkward moments and situations no parenting book prepared them for. But there was also joy. Watching Naledi and Themba grow up together, siblings in every way that mattered. Seeing Tandu blossom into her career while still being present for her daughter. Witnessing Chibius become the father he'd feared he could never be, not just to Themba but to Naledi as well. "No," she said finally, "I don't regret it. I regret the secrets and lies that brought us here. But this, our weird, beautiful, complicated family, this is exactly what I needed even if I didn't know it." "I love you," Chibius said, "for your strength, for your forgiveness, for building this with me. I love you too, and I trust you now, really trust you, because we've been through the worst and came out better." They sat together in comfortable silence, watching their children sleep. Outside, Johannesburg glittered with possibility. Inside, a family that shouldn't have worked somehow did. The nanny cam had captured a moment of deception. But what it really revealed was the capacity for people to transform pain into purpose, secrets into honesty, and betrayal into a love more resilient than anyone could have imagined. Amara's phone buzzed with a message from her mother in Lagos. "How are my grandchildren?" She typed back, "Perfect, complicated and perfect." Because that was the truth of it. Life rarely went according to plan. Families came in unexpected shapes. Love required more than passion. It required forgiveness, communication, and the courage to keep choosing each other even when it was hard. The camera had stopped recording years ago, but the story it started continued, written daily by people who'd learned that happy endings weren't about perfection. They were about showing up, telling the truth, and building something beautiful from broken pieces. In the crib, Naledi stirred, her tiny hand reaching out instinctively. Themba's hand found hers, and even in sleep, they held on to each other. Siblings, family, love. Not despite the complicated truth of their origin, but because of it. And that was more than enough. What's the most important lesson you've learned about family, forgiveness, or second chances? We'd love to hear your story in the comments. And if this story touched you, share it with someone who needs to know that beautiful things can come from broken beginnings.